In the belfry of the old Chelmsford Meeting House, now the Unitarian Church, this bell, along with others, signals the start of the tercentenary celebration. The old toll house, which serves as an information booth during the celebration, is, of course, a familiar sight to townsfolk, as is also the Town Hall of Chelmsford. Sunday morning finds this group ready for the flag raising ceremony. Ralph Adams, town flag custodian, Congresswoman Edith Nurse Rogers, Carl Peterson, and Roger Boyd. Old Glory is raised to the top of the pole, and those who watch have the thrill of knowing that this flag had flown in Washington over the nation's capital. To the tercentenary banquet, in the tent set up at the rear of the Unitarian Church, come Carl A.E. Peterson and family, the Clifford Hartleys, and the Ed Hoyts, Roy Allen, who conducted the old folks' concerts, Chelmsford's well-liked fire chief, Alan Kidder and Mrs. Kidder, are followed by Mr. and Mrs. E. Newcomb Mills, and also Roger Boyd, his father, and Shirley Boyd. Lauren Wright comes into the tent, preceding Judge John H. Valentine and the Reverend Warren Chandler and Mrs. Chandler. Ben Cole, another well-known townsman with a friend, are followed by Representative Ed DeSaulnia and his wife. Then along come Mr. and Mrs. Harold Peterson, and finally, Ray Osborne escorts the principal guest of honor, Lieutenant Governor Sumner Whittier, into the banquet. Inside the tent, the guests are seated after the Reverend Philip Larson has asked the blessing. Lieutenant Governor Whittier sits with Carl Peterson, chairman of the Tercentenary Committee. On Carl's left is Mrs. Peterson, Betty Lee Morrison, queen of the Tercentenary, and Mr. and Mrs. Arnold Perham. Everyone seems to be enjoying the occasion, none more so than the Garfield Davises and Mrs. Bernard Clark. The Queen and her court make an appearance at the fashion show, which is another of the many events that highlight Chelmsford's birthday party. Queen Betty Lee and runner-up Marcia White obviously enjoyed the many authentic costumes which showed the principal fashion change that have taken place since Chelmsford was born 300 years ago. Who can forget the Roaring Twenties and the flapper era with its reckless attitude toward life and fashion? It's a far cry from the attire of these bathing beauties to the swimsuits of 1955. But even the dress of the bride has changed in the last 300 years. South Chelmsford's Village Improvement Association holds open house for their friends, among whom are the old-timers, Charles Simpson, standing here with Charles House and Mrs. Wilbur Lampum. The exhibit of Chelmsford's 4-H Club was indeed a credit both to the club and to the occasion. On the Little League baseball field, Bob McDermott drives in a run as Pete Pickens scores and catcher Ralph Nolet waits for the throw. Watching from the bench are Jimmy Parker, Skipper Hames, Ricky Field, Bill Wyman, Wayne Cook, Roger Aubrey, Paul Lucia, and Dave Crocker. The Chelmsford Police Force leads the biggest and most exciting event of all, the parade. And what a parade it was. In the reviewing stand, a Christian Herder, Governor of the Commonwealth, Carl Peterson, Congresswoman Edith Nurse Rogers, and Mrs. Margaret Mills, Executive Secretary of the Tricentenary Committee. The Chelmsford Police Department Band, organized especially for the Tricentenary. The Tricentenary Queen and her court pass by on a float, and behind them come the various Scout and Cub Scout groups of Chelmsford. The Chelmsford Lions Club is led by Harold Stott, followed by President Don Beaubien. And expert horsemanship is displayed by a local riding club, the Silver Spurs, with Ralph Sims in the lead. Here is Andrew Peterson playing the part of Dr. Wilson Waters, who is credited with writing the most complete history of Chelmsford. The Chelmsford Tree Department, headed by Miles Hogan, presented this tree to neighboring Billerica. The Chelmsford High School cheerleaders and the baton twirlers step out smartly ahead of the Chelmsford High School band under the direction of Paul Bartolo. Chief Alan Kidder of the Chelmsford Fire Department salutes as he passes the reviewing stand. Chief Kidder is followed by the Somerville Color Guard. There were no more interesting moments in the parade than when the new gave way to the old, and ancient fire apparatus from all sections of New England made an appearance. To bring the parade to a close was this ancient hearse that had served Chelmsford for many years. Barbara Birkinshaw, Janet Bell, and Gail Churchill dress up the somber relic of yesteryear. The fireman's muster was a most interesting event, and many of these hand-powered pumpers were capable of throwing a stream further than the mechanized units of 1955. The judges are at the far end of the field, marking the furthest single droplet to determine the winner. The water polo game was very amusing for spectators and participants alike. The idea of the game is to drive this huge can along the static wire over the opponent's goal line. But the players seem to concentrate more on soaking each other than propelling the can. And so the big affair comes to a close. Chelmsford is 300 years old. The June night is filled with bursting rockets as the fireworks display is viewed by thousands. Residents and visitors all agree it was a wonderful birthday party.